Hello, CSL. Welcome back to another video cast. We're at a point in the season, All-Star break, things happening, trade deadlines, all kinds of crazy chaos that could be happening over the next few days. And to talk about some trade ideas and different possibilities that we could see happen, I'm joined by the LA Lakers general manager, Tim. Tim, 7 wins
Hello.
so far. Are you looking
Ye-
to make trades still?
yeah, yeah, I am. I had, believe it or not, I've had at least one team inquire about Christian Wood, even though he's out for the year. And presumably they'll, if they picked him up, they would pick up his team option, and have him for that last year. But other than that, it's been pretty quiet. There were a couple instances where I was looking at dealing Georgios Papagiannis. I might go back and look at one team that had interest in him. Maybe make that trade because in the top of the draft, there's a lot of really pretty good big men up there. And plus, you never know. Jazz pick will probably be about mid 20s, so maybe find something there. So we'll see. What about you in terms of looking at trade ideas?
Yeah, I mean it's quiet. It was kind of the end of last week. Just the plane going over. So Tim's outside at the moment trying to get a signal. So hence why we may have some airplane flights in the sound. But I mean, yeah, it's been it seemed to pick up towards the end of last week. I think when people realised the trade deadline was looming, but it's kind of gone quiet over the weekend, I think, and it's good to have you on today because we can break down some teams who possibly might be looking for the odd piece or two for this season. Teams who possibly are sitting down the bottom, have guys available, and seeing if we can try and drum up some ideas and throw some crazy trades at the league. So, Tim, where do you want to start with this?
Okay. Well, I think first off we can knock off pretty much the elite teams, like Boston, Miami, Dallas, Sacramento, Phoenix, Oklahoma City. Note, Andrew, do not fuck up that Thunder roster. Just stick with it the rest of the season. See where it goes. Because you guys are doing great in the regular season. You need to see how that outfit meshes in the playoffs before you start thinking about making more moves. So please stay with that team. Please fucking stay on top of Utah so that pick stays, worse and all of that. So, but that doesn't preclude like Phoenix and Sacramento from making moves because they seem to usually do make moves, and that's how they keep their extended, unbroken, unblemished run of dominance going. However many years we're into the CSL now, so they could end up doing something. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean it's normally this time of year where we see Sacramento or Phoenix pop up where they seem to somehow convince someone to move a middle piece of their team, someone who plays 20 to 25 minutes, doesn't really make much difference to the whole team balance, and they seem to always pick up a draft pick or something that keeps them going. But we won't talk about that today because that's inevitably going to happen with someone. But we'll see. But what teams do you think should be looking to make a move?
Really, I think we should be looking at the sort of middle class teams where maybe they're in the playoff hunt. Maybe they're on that second level. Not quite as good as the contenders, but better than the average team. So kind of really that middle class range that needs to decide, okay, are we going to buy and try and move up in tier, or are we just going to hang low, stay steady with what we've got, or do we maybe look at selling?
Yeah, let's let's break it down then. Let's take a look at a couple of teams, and the first one that sticks out for me in the Eastern Conference is probably one that is probably the nearest to a borderline elite team, but are just sort of on the fringes there, and that is the Washington Wizards, a team that has made some moves already. Uh, you've got Milos as sort of the main franchise guy there, but at 29, 23, they're probably just below the elite in the East. Do you think that they need to make a move, or do you think they're going to be quite content with what they've got so far?
Well, just kind of looking at it, um, there's always a question with Walter Tavares. Is he a guy who can generate wins, or is he just a stat stuffer? Um, it's really hard to tell. I mean, how old is he now?
He is. Let me check. Where is it? Tavares. He is 29 now, so he's on his last part of this deal. He's expiring in the summer, so I mean,
Yeah,
for the Wizards, it's probably a case of just keep hold of him for now and reassess in the summer. I mean, they're going to be a playoff team
yeah,
regardless, but yeah, I guess
yeah,
that's a longer term question for them.
yeah. And then there's a question of, okay, if they decide to move, well, I should say make another move because they picked up like Conley and McGee um, in that deal. Where do we see the biggest opportunity for them to make an improvement in that starting lineup? Because I think they have a very good bench.
Hmm.
So the question is, where do we see the opportunity for them to? And I know they're trying to consolidate because that's in their trade block. Where do they see the consolidation that they can make a move and put somebody next to Milos? My guess is probably in the post. They could probably use a post scorer um, because Thompson, um, Biombo, Big Dumbo as I love to call him, Walter Tavares. If I remember correctly, none of those guys really scores the ball much. Tavares, I think, relies heavily on his insane shooting percentages.
Hmm.
In fact, I'm just curious, what do his playoff numbers look like?
So yeah, I mean, he's only been in the playoffs once in his whole career. That was in 2019 with San Antonio. Played 7 games, shot 66%, 14 points more or less. So
Yep,
similar numbers to his regular season, really.
yep,
His percentage jumped up a little bit, it looks like, but yeah. Problem is he doesn't take that many shots though for a scoring big man. You kind of want him to
yep,
have like 15, 16 shots, and his best he's ever done in a season is 12 shots per game. So
yep,
yeah, that's
yeah,
his downside. But
yep. So, I think that's a real opportunity for the Wizards to take a look at, who's available, who's listed on trade box, and really look for a scoring big man. Because right now they have a lot of, they have Milos who can score from the outside. Trying to think of who else has a really high scoring rating on that
yeah, I
team.
mean they've got Inglis, who's one of their scorers. Tristan Thompson seems to be putting up some fairly decent numbers this year, but they don't really have anyone who is, you know, a really good second option behind Milos. It seems like Milos has to carry quite a lot of the load here.
Yep.
I mean, we'll see how it turns out, but I think, like you said, they need probably a scoring big, someone who's going to take more shots than the guys they've got in the post. But I don't think there's anyone out there really. Is there that could fill that gap for them?
That's a good question. You know, and the other question is, I know they put the package on there with Raleigh Hawkins and some other pieces there to try and get us a second player. But um, I can we just check Washington's trade block real quick and see, because it's on the last post there what Gary is what package he's offering and what for.
Yeah, let me have a quick
Okay.
look. I mean, whilst I'm having a quick look, I mean, is there anything else you think the Washington Wizards are missing apart from the big man, or is that primarily the main thing?
Um, yeah, I would say primarily a second scorer is really what they kind of need to have. I mean, they've got pretty good defense from what I remember. They've got great rebounding and Thompson and Tavares, and Biombo can still rebound decently. They've got shot blocking.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, their blocks essentially offering a package of Inglis, Roll Hawkins, and Isaiah Thomas for. They're looking for a 3-and-D wing apparently, rather than a post scoring guy. So they're obviously going a slightly different route to what we've discussed. But yeah, I don't know if there's anyone out there who can fill that gap for them anyway, even with the assets that they're offering. So
yeah, yeah. I think 3-and-D is the wrong direction for them to look in. I really think they need to be looking for that secondary score, because right now it seems to me like you have two options. You can either key in on Milos and dare the rest of the team to beat you, which is a lot easier when Tavares is injured or when he's in foul trouble,
mm,
because he has shitty discipline. Um, or you can dare Milos to beat you and then just concentrate on shutting down their other guys. So, but if they had that second scorer, and maybe it's not even maybe it's regardless of position. Maybe they just need somebody else who will demand the ball alongside Milos. The more I'm thinking about it, the more that's really where their weakness is. It's not in the 3-and-D that they're looking for.
yeah. I mean, they've made moves. I can't see the Wizards doing anything else before the deadline. I think the questions that we're trying to answer for them are longer term. So
Yeah.
that's going to be something in this off season they look to tackle. But looking at some of the other teams in the Eastern Conference, just to run quickly through, I mean,
Yep.
Chicago, Cleveland are probably not going to make a move. I mean, they're both touching the top teams in the East, and I think they're quite content with what they've got and where they're going. The teams that are sort of sitting below that are sort of three, I think. You've got the Philadelphia 76ers, who had explosive starts to the season and now back at just above 0.500. You've got the Indiana Pacers, who are making trades left, right, and center, and no idea what direction they're going in. And the plane is really loud. And then the Orlando Magic, who are 23 and 28, but obviously they've now got Andre Drummond back and are starting to make some progress there. So, I mean, of those three teams, Tim, I mean, which one do you think is most likely to make a move, and who do you think they can get?
Well, Philadelphia basically has a slumlord GM, so we'll just kind of like skip past them because they never make moves because TJ's rarely on. Um, I don't think Indiana even has anything left really that's tradable.
Yeah, I mean, they've been trying to throw around Kevin Love and Caleb
Yep.
Swanigan as pieces, but I don't think there's any buyers for Kevin Love's contract anymore, unfortunately. But
Actually, we've been talking about a team needing a secondary scorer. Why don't we? So
yeah, yeah, that could
what?
work. That
Yeah,
could work.
what's Caleb's contract number?
It's about 40 million, if I remember. Yeah, just over 14 million. So, I mean,
Okay, that
for the Wizards to do it, I mean, they're going to have to move a couple of guys really to make that, unless they move Walter Tavares for that straight up. I mean, Tristan Thompson's the other one who's got the salary to move. Apart from that, you're looking at packages of Thomas, Jackson, Biombo, and I mean Hollis Thompson. They're the kind of salary ballparks that they could move.
Yeah, and if I'm Washington, I look at any of those options. And just in terms of Indiana, I know that I know that High Grade has been trying to kind of build via defense. Um, so in that sense, a Kevin Love for Walter Tavares trade actually makes a lot of sense for both
Yeah,
teams. You're essentially dealing one veteran guy for another. And then, I think that move, Tavares for Love, will benefit both teams. Indiana will get a elite post defender and rebounder who can convert at high shots. Because I think that's something Indiana needs too. I think they need people who can actually shoot the damn ball.
yeah. I mean, I think straight up this actually works. I mean, I'm trying to
Yeah.
work through my head. I mean, is there a reason why the Wizards wouldn't do it straight up? Not really. I mean, we've kind of talked about them and their need for a score in there. They've got Biombo and Thompson who can do the defensive work, and it actually would balance out very well. Looking at Indiana, I mean, the only question is, would they be happy with just having Walter Tavares? I mean, possibly. If I mean, like you said, the defense of Tavares over Love is probably better suited to Indiana's style of play. The question is that they obviously taken a punt on his expiring contract and whether they necessarily want to take that rat gamble that he possibly might not re-sign there in the summer. We've seen some crazy moves before.
Yep.
That's the only side that I think would be hesitant on this is actually Indiana's side, not Washington. I think Washington
Right.
would probably do this tomorrow. So do you think that there's anything that Washington can use to convince them to slightly give the balance of the trade back to actually get this over the line?
Well, I don't know if Washington would be willing to do this, but I think Lawley Hawkins would make an interesting piece. Um, he would essentially replace Luke Kennard as that
Yeah,
scoring
yeah.
scoring guy off the bench. And so, okay, Hawkins is only playing about 14, 15 minutes
Yeah, it's not
for,
like it's not like the Wizards are going to lose anything by getting rid of him.
right.
So it's just a bit of youth. That's the only thing. It's a cheap contract for a guy who they might want to bring on next year. But yeah, I could see that. Hawkins and Tavares for Love. I think
Yeah,
that's a balanced deal.
yeah.
There we go, Tim. We've got one out of the way. Right.
Ugh.
Done that. So on to Orlando and the other team in the Eastern Conference who we kind of talked about. They obviously uh, we knew they were going to be slow to start this season because of Andre Drummond's injury. And we were kind of all waiting for him to come back to see what this team would look like. And, they've been on a fairly decent run now, I think. Won a couple of games and, getting nearer towards 500. Obviously, the big question mark in the room, and I'm sure it'll be the first thing on your lips, is the Andrew Wiggins at point guard.
Yeah,
Surely for the Orlando Magic to be a playoff team and to make progress towards the rest of the season, they need to find a point guard.
desperately. And really has a tendency to put up the weirdest fucking lineups I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen the DDS AI make less confusing lineups than he does. That is how out there. And remember, it took him a while for putting Drummond and Embiid in the same lineup,
Yeah, yeah.
and everybody's like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I think we can't even argue. I mean, for those of you who follow Wolverine Studios and their releases, they've just released a beta version of DDS 19, and there's some interesting stuff in there in terms of being able to designate a scoring point basically now. So rather than having your point guard as the main guy initiating the play, you can just give it to a guy who's got the best passing and handling ability on your team. And I can't even say, even with this lineup the Orlando Magic have, and even if it was in the new version of the game, that this would work because let me put it to you, Tim. Andrew Wiggins' passing ability is 44. His handling ability is 50. I would be terrified if I had a point guard or anyone playing in a ball handling role with those kind of ratings. So they need to get a point guard. And where do we think they can get that from?
Um, well, I don't think there's any elite point guards um, that they could get. They'd maybe be looking at a you know a I think they should just be looking for a decent starter.
Yeah. Can I throw a
Um,
name at you?
yeah,
It's a guy that has been in Orlando before, who, if I'm remembering, he is currently sitting on a team that's not performing very well. I've just got to remember exactly where he is. There he is at the Charlotte Hornets, and that is Rajon Rondo. Not He has some flaws, we know that, but he can still play defense. He can handle the ball, and he probably fit straight into this team. And
okay.
he's probably gettable for the Orlando Magic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how old is he now?
He's 34. He's on a minimum salary deal for this year and next year.
Yeah.
So, it's not, salary considerations are not going to be drastic for them. It's just a case of, can the Magic offer anything to possibly convince Charlotte just to ditch his contract, basically. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, given that Rondo is 34, and the problem I have with Rondo is his passing is down to 50.
mm,
So he's really eroded from that standpoint. But
I
you
mean,
know,
his passing is 79 and his handling is 60. So it's still
oh,
serviceable.
yeah,
His
I read the
defense
wrong
is,
column.
yeah, his defense is 75. His IQ and discipline is still pretty good. The downside you get with Rondo is that he can't shoot the ball to save his life.
Right,
So, but the Orlando Magic do not need Rondo to score the ball. They just need
right,
him to service and play Drummond, play Wiggins, play like so Covington and co. Uh, that's all they need a point guard to do, and I
yeah,
think that would make a drastic change to this team. And I mean, the player that I could possibly see them flipping on, I mean, to make this happen, is possibly someone like I don't know, like a Satam Singh, who I've never even heard of, but he's 23 years old. He's 7'2" center. I mean, he could possibly fill a gap for Charlotte. I mean, I don't know. They probably Magic have got a second round pick. They could probably throw at Charlotte to
yeah.
make it happen. I mean, that's the kind of value I'm thinking. I mean, is there anyone else you think could fill the gap for the Magic who's possibly available for them?
Um, Not that I can think of, because there's not very many point guards available.
No,
Um,
no.
despite the fact that we've had a huge point guard run of drafts in the last couple of classes, it's like the league is still thirsty for quality point guards. So,
It's because they're
well,
being stashed, aren't they? They're being
yep,
stashed by
yep,
teams. So,
yep,
some of the elite teams have got two, three good point guards, and
yep,
if all of the elite teams have that, that's 12 to 15 players possibly who are not available. So,
yep.
it's always the same. The rich get richer with these sort of things. So, I mean, that's the only guy I thought of when the Magic popped up that
Okay,
he was gettable.
since you mentioned crazy trade scenarios
Mm-hmm.
earlier,
Yeah,
is there any conceivable way the Magic get Kemba Walker?
no.
Okay,
I don't
I
think
just want
so.
to.
I mean, the only thing I can think of that they could possibly do to get Kemba Walker would be based on Detroit's valuation of him. I mean, a first round pick, probably have to throw someone like Drummond into the mix and probably Wiggins. I think that's what I think the valuation of Kemba Walker is at the moment.
Yeah,
Um, Not to say that that's not a fair deal. I think it's just, you know, why would Detroit move Kemba Walker? I mean, I know they've been talking about it all season, but I know they've got John Wall now, and they got him on an absolute dime of a deal. Because seriously, when I was talking about, I tried to get John Wall, and when we were having discussions, it was nowhere near the valuation he actually went for in the end, which just shocked me. But I mean, Detroit, elite team in the East, two quality point guards, and either can fill shooting guard, point guard. That's the value of Kemba Walker. I mean, we've seen it. We know that they're going to want an absolute brilliant deal for him. I
Yep.
can't see Orlando even considering that or even inquiring because they know the valuation of him.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely think the Rondo thing would make sense for, both teams.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's say Singh or the second round pick, or even Singh and the second round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, yeah, those aren't high value pieces, but it's for a 34-year-old point guard who can't shoot. So at least you're getting
Yeah,
something back of value there.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I can't see the Magic pulling off a blockbuster deal. I think they're quite
No.
happy with Wiggins and Drummond and to lead the line for them. So
Yep.
yeah. Okay, so moving on to sort of the Western Conference now, and I've got sort of three teams in my list here: uh, Golden State, Portland, and the Pelicans. Well, yeah, Pelicans, and then that's sort of the bottom tier of the playoffs, and then I've got sort of the Rockets and Grizzlies sort of hanging around just above them, really. So, I mean, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with those two teams and work down? I mean,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
won't talk about Golden State because they're GMless, so they're not going to do
Right.
anything. But
Right.
I mean, the Rockets and Grizzlies, we know the Rockets have gone on a pretty terrible run recently, and so have the Grizzlies, and they're both kind of getting nearer towards the likes of the Trailblazers and the Pelicans now, rather than pushing the likes of OKC and Dallas for that sort of home court advantage. So let's take a look at. Should we go Houston first? Do you think?
Sure. Sure.
So we talking of crazy lineups. They've had some crazy lineups this year, and they've got just a interesting mix of players, haven't they? I mean, we know Carl Anthony Towns is sort of the main franchise guy here, but let me just list some of the other guys that they've got who I think are serviceable. I mean, you've got uh, Aminu, Monk, Batum, Burton's, Looney, Jones, Ulis. You've obviously got where is he? The elusive Dragon Bender, who let's be honest is an absolute bust at this stage. I mean, they've got a collection of interesting guys around Carl Anthony Towns, but what do they need to do you think, Tim, to get away from the bottom end of the playoff standings and nearer towards the top end of the Western Conference?
Well, to me, they're yet another. I think this is a theme we're consistently seeing. They're another team that really needs a better point guard.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is, um, unless you're able to put a mega deal offer for Kemba Walker, there's really nobody out there to even consider. And that even Kemba wouldn't make Houston a true championship contender, even if they could put something together. So, um, the other problem I'm seeing is that Biz tends to overvalue his guys a lot, um, and so trying to find a deal from that standpoint gets a little difficult. He's one of those guys where you have to catch him at the right time if you want to really get a decent deal rather than you overpaying um, for it. So that's kind of my take on it. Oh, looking at the Kings, that reminds me.
Yeah,
If
let me throw a name at you then from the
Yeah,
Kings because I'm just looking. I mean, I can't see them possibly moving Peyton. I mean, we know Westbrook's possibly available, but they're going to want king salary for him. Surprise, surprise, no pun intended there. But I mean, what about Isaiah Cousins?
Yeah, they were looking at maybe Cousins, maybe that guy they stole from me, a pick in front of me. What's his name? Uh,
Derek White,
yeah, well, yeah, yeah,
pick
Derek
22
White.
last
Yep,
year.
yep, a pick in front of me, which still makes me mad. Um, but yeah, I mean, Derek White, Isaiah Cousins. I know they're on offer. Um, I was actually maybe looking at trying to pick up one of them for
Hmm.
Papa Giannis. Just to throw that out there in public, I was kind of looking at that. And I was kind of like, I wasn't sure, if that really met Papa's value considering his upside. So
Yeah.
I kind of backed off on it. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, to me, White and Cousins are very similar players. Um, because I literally know Cousins' entire potential ratings, from everybody in their
Hmm.
class. So he and White have very similar upside and valuation, as near as I could figure out White's potentials. So is there a scenario where uh, a trade makes sense
Well,
for?
there is one thing that Houston have that the Kings probably want, and surprise, surprise, it's probably a draft pick. And I mean, we know they hold the Clippers pick in a couple of years' time, and that's probably a bit of an overpay if I was Houston. But the New Orleans Pelicans pick this year is probably something that is equal value to White or to Cousins from the Kings. I think it kind of
But
doesn't
but
really
but
help move the Kings anywhere though. That's the only thing.
yeah, yeah, and plus the Pelicans pick isn't tradable because of the Stephen's rule.
Ah, yes, of course, yeah.
Yep.
So how about this then? Let me throw another name at you then. And that
Okay. Okay. For the Kings, what about if the Clippers is an overpay? What about the Houston's 2024 first for um, for uh, for either White or Cousins? Is that something that Sacramento would be comfortable gambling on?
I think so. I think that could work. I mean, if I was the Kings, I would probably do it for White rather than Cousins. I think if I look at the ratings, I think sorry for Cousins rather than White.
Yeah.
I mean, Cousins, we know he's a fairly good shooter, but I mean they're both so even. I mean, yeah, I'd probably do that.
It,
I think
yeah.
that
I
that
mean,
would work.
yeah, yeah. It's literally a coin flip. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You just take which one you think's going to develop better and
Yep.
go with it, and that gives Houston a point guard who's young enough who will fit them, and
Yep.
that could work. Okay, lovely.
So two trades we've got down.
That's three trades. You forgot the love trade as well. That's three
Oh,
we've done.
oh yeah,
We're on a,
three.
we're on a
Yeah,
roll. So
yeah.
we're moving on to the Memphis Grizzlies, a team that recently made a trade for Draymond Green. Um,
Which was a steal of a deal, by the way.
yeah, yeah, we know. But as you may have seen from the comments, I think whenever you put a guy on a trade block and put a time deadline on it, you're always committing suicide anyway. So
Yep.
um, we knew it was going to happen. It happened. Grizzlies got an absolute steal and fair play there. I hope it works out for them. But they're sitting around 29 and 23. And in true Grizzlies fashion, they don't have a go-to player. I mean, their highest scoring player is Cody Zeller, and I think has been Cody Zeller for many years now. But what do you think that they would be looking for at the trade deadline?
Uh, I'm gonna say this as a joke, but Isaiah Taylor. Yeah. Yeah. They're going to be defense first.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. They've got Tice. Let me look at the lineup again.
Oh yeah, sure. So that's what they're currently running with.
Oh,
So
that's right. Because they change lineups all the time too.
yeah. I mean, hence why you can see that from some of the stats of the guys. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's a mixed bag. I mean, the guy that I think they would be looking to move to bring in some more defense is Harry Giles,
Yep.
who for a team that is down the bottom might be very interested in gambling on his potential.
Yep. And I if I remember right, uh, Andre was not very enthusiastic about drafting Giles. It was kind of like I'm drafting him because he's the best guy left, but I really don't
Yeah.
want him.
Yeah, he has a high upside. He doesn't fit the Grizzlies because they're obviously looking at the playoffs. So that's the piece that I think they would have available. I mean, they're looking for defense. I mean, where can they find a bit of defense from that will help them?
Um, I forget. I don't think I scouted Giles, so I don't know if you did, or if you have some idea of his upside and what his particular areas of strength are.
I think I can't remember, to be honest with you. I think there was it was a bit of scoring. I think if I
Okay.
remember possibly. So I mean, there's there's one guy who I know is available that I don't think is going to fit, but I'm going to throw his name in the hat anyway, and that is LeBron James on the Hawks. They were kind of hoping for a little bit more this season, and he's got an expiring deal. But I mean, is there anything left from LeBron? I mean, I honestly don't know, and he doesn't really fit the Grizzlies anyway. But I mean,
But I mean, it would be that would be really interesting. What if LeBron's stats look like this year?
it's not setting the ground a lot. I mean, there's a drop off in scoring. I mean, he's averaging 15 points a game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists off of 53% shooting. I mean, it's not electric, but I think he's been played around a couple of positions as well. So that might explain a couple of things. But I mean, at 10.5 million expiring deal, is he really going to help Memphis? Would he even fit in Memphis's lineups?
Yeah, I mean, I forgot he was that old.
Yeah.
If I was Memphis, I would want a lot more than LeBron for that. So never mind.
I mean, what else? What else is available in terms of a Memphis type player?
Um,
Uh,
I I would say Briante Weber uh, from the, but he doesn't add the scoring. That really go to guy.
hmm,
So I mean, the Wizards. That would be more of a long term deal. No, never mind. That doesn't make sense, or does it? I don't know. Anyway, keep going. Trying to think.
yeah, I'm just gonna flick through a couple here that I mean, I think could possibly have something sitting there somewhere, but I mean, it's a tough one for the Grizzlies because they're doing the standard Grizzlies thing, aren't they? They're just playing good basketball, nothing electric, but they're hanging in that mid tier, and that's kind of where they have been for a few seasons now. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where I think this is really an opportunity for Andre to say, "Look, I got all these great defenders. I can have one offense guy
hmm,
to really, be the star of the team and
yeah.
uh, add some flash to this blue collar grit and grind team."
Hmm.
The
Okay, okay. I got a name for you. Let me throw a name at
Okay.
you. Willie Cauley Stein. Just a pure defensive center. Nothing. He's not going to set the ground alight, but if he's looking for a bit of front court presence to move Green out of that front court, that could possibly work. Um, I mean, don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you think that's a match, or it's difficult, isn't it, for the Grizzlies?
Yeah, I mean, because what they need more than anything is scoring, but yet
Hmm.
Andre is addicted to defense. So it's like, it's you need somebody. and I mentioned this as a joke, and obviously the Suns wouldn't do this, but they need a poor man's version of Isaiah Taylor, someone who doesn't have that high of a scoring rating, but on a team that's also got a bunch of low to moderate scorers, they can step up and be that guy.
Yeah,
The question is,
it's
who,
difficult. It's difficult.
who,
I think
yeah,
I can
who
see
fits that
why
mold?
they they haven't done anything after the Green trade, and I think with us being stumped here for a few minutes, I think we'll move on. But
Yep,
I
yep,
think we'll agree that Andre's in a tough situation in terms of trades he could possibly do before the deadline, and I think
yep.
that means that the Grizzlies might stand packed.
Mm-hmm.
So the other teams that we've got milling around the bottom end of the Western Conference, fighting for the last seed, really. You've got the New Orleans Pelicans, the Portland Trailblazers, and the Golden State Warriors. And I mean, we won't talk about Golden State because they haven't got a GM. But if they had a GM, I mean, they might possibly already be comfortably in the eighth seed anyway because of the talent they've got on that team. But
Yep.
let's talk about the New Orleans Pelicans, a team that quite early on in the season made moves to try and get into the playoff hunt, and they are there, just still hovering around though.
Yeah, I mean, I look at that team, and the first thing that jumps out to me is they don't really. They basically have Anthony Davis and a bunch of role players.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I mean they took a punt on Vucevic, who is stats wise is doing okay by looks of it. I mean Marble, we people either love or hate him. Brandon Knight, people either love him or hate him, and Joe Jackson has kind of been a staple there for a little while. I mean, it's tough, isn't it, though, when you've got a franchise player like Anthony Davis to try and give up other pieces to get someone to pair him with is always a challenge. So you tend to look, I guess, at two things. You either look for someone who is is it on a expiring deal who's slightly going into his twilight of his career to try and pick him up just to give 1 or 2 years of performance, or you take someone who is younger, unfinished product and hope that he develops. So I guess the Pelicans are kind of still looking for that second fiddle alongside Anthony Davis. And who could possibly be available to fill that gap, do we think?
Well, first question to ask is how old is Anthony Davis now?
He is 28 years old and he's
Okay.
got 4 years left on his deal. So, I mean, they're going to get the best out of his career.
Yep.
It's just a
The, the,
case of who can they get for, either for a couple of those years or for that length of time to pair next to him.
um, yeah, to me, the Pelicans are an example of a team that they're the very definition of being at the crossroads
Mm-hmm.
of buy or sell. I mean, that's literally down even to their star player. 28 is where the age where you kind of decide, okay, do we go in around him or do we sell? Um, and so my question is, okay, considering what the Pelicans, I'm going to take this a completely different direction.
Okay.
Completely different direction.
What are
And
you thinking?
this is going to sound wild, but because there's so little else around Anthony Davis, is this a situation where the Pelicans say, okay, 28 is the age where I'm going to get the most possible value. Every succeeding year, his value is going to decline. What if I throw him on the block and see what offers I get?
Yeah, I mean, would you, if I was the New Orleans Pelicans general manager, I think I wouldn't do that for two reasons. One is I don't have my pick this year, so I need to make sure that that pick and the rest of this season, I get into a position where at least I get into the playoffs, and I'm so close to it, I might as well try. That's my first thing. The second thing is I don't want to be rushed into a decision like Draymond Green and Indiana. I want to be able to take my time, work through the options, and therefore I might put him on the block now, but I wouldn't move him before the deadline. I
Right.
would make that an off-season move. Once I see where the draft picks settle down at, who's got what are people offering me, then I can make an assessment. I've got more time to one to scout if that's the direction I'm going to go. So I know whether I want to go into a draft this year with a high pick possibly, or whether I make moves for the next draft or the further along in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Because to me, I don't. I'm not seeing a smart move for the Pelicans either to buy or sell right now,
Mm-hmm.
because they're so entrenched in that middle. I think making a move to acquire somebody else alongside Anthony Davis is a short-sighted move
Yeah, yeah.
that they'll regret. And by the same token, none of their veteran guy, and if you decide to sell, then you're absolutely committing to I'm going to trade AD in the off
Mm-hmm.
season. Um,
Yeah.
and like you said, because it's a short time span, and you don't want to be rushing to a decision, I the more we're talking about it, the more I think what would be best for them is to stay pat, because even if they miss the playoffs, it'll be like pick 15, 16,
Yeah,
17,
yeah,
somewhere
yeah.
along there. So basically, we're talking a mid first, not a big deal.
Yeah.
Um, and so I would put Anthony Davis's name on the trade block, make it clear that no, he will not be traded by the deadline,
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, and then see how things develop, and then trade him in the off season. Really start this rebuilding process, because right now they're stuck in no man's land,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're not going to get out of it until realistically, unless they trade AD this off season, get a sensational rebuilding package. So that's my opinion on what New Orleans should do.
Yeah. And the challenge that they have, just looking at their draft picks, is that I think they only hold their pick in 2023, and then 2024 they've dealt. So it means that if they are going to go down that rebuilding path, it's got to
Uh,
be a
uh,
brilliant package to twist it.
yep. Who has the 2024 first?
I don't know actually off the top of my head. I'm going to suggest it's Miami because I'm going to have a look there now, but I honestly don't know who
That
has their 2024 pick.
I mean, that's always a good question. If you don't know who has the first round pick, look to see if Miami has it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, is it Houston? Maybe I think it might be Houston. No, I don't know. But whoever's got that will be loving the conversation we've just had. But I think we're kind of putting the Pelicans in a similar bucket to the Grizzlies, and that they're not a buying or a selling team at the deadline. And for a
Yep.
team that's hovering around the playoffs, it's going to be a tough run for them.
Yeah, but at least with the Pelicans, you can see a clear path forward. Put AD's name on the block.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait to see what happens in the off
Hmm.
season. Memphis, I don't really see a path forward either way. One of the benefits of Andre's style is that it consistently overachieves. It consistently gets
Yeah,
good results. The downside is making that next step up to great results and being championship contenders.
yeah. Okay. And I guess that leaves us with one team, and that is the Portland Trailblazers, who are 24 and 28, who we've been on a good run. I will say that. We've been on a fairly good run recently. We were, I think, 9 games back off 0.500, and we're now 4 games off of it. Wade, I'm going to sort of hand it over to you as a bit of a monologue, really. But
Yeah.
I guess where do you see the Trailblazers fitting in as a buying or a selling team at the deadline?
Well, let me ask you this since you're on the air. Uh, what are you most looking for? What if somebody held a gun to your head right now, and said you have to choose whether to buy or sell, what would you say?
Well, I mean, I think for this team in particular, I think I've mentioned it to a couple of GMs in that I'm not in any rush to necessarily do anything with this team. I mean, I think we'll probably end the season around between 40 to 45 wins. I think that might possibly be an 8 seed, depending on the rest of the Western Conference. But I don't see anything out there in the market unless it's overpriced to a put us into probably the Houston Grizzlies ballpark this season with accelerating on from that next season. I don't see anything that is available that can do that. So the fact that we hold our first round pick this year means that we're going to get something out of that at the end of the season. We've got flexibility. I know we've got Horford aging, and next year we've got one more year left of probably of his performance. But I'm not in any rush at the deadline to do anything with this team. I think we've been ticking along quite nicely over the past 10 or 12 games, and I think the balance is back with this team now. So I'm not in any rush to do anything. So I guess if you held a gun at my head, I would probably say we would probably be looking as a buying team to see what's out there, but quite disappointed with what's available at the moment.
Yeah. So it's essentially, yeah. See, the thing is, uh, you guys kind of remind me of Houston in that you have a lot of interesting players. You have your franchise guy in Marcus Smart, who, if you want to trade him, let me know. Because I've wanted Smart ever since his draft class. And I was so pissed that year because wasn't he in the first class?
I think so. Yeah. Let me
Yeah.
check. I mean,
It,
I think he went. Yeah, he went first overall in 2016 to the Clippers. It looks like, but
Yeah, because I remember we got fucked over in that draft, as we always do in the lottery. And because I wanted him so badly, but anyway, yeah, and you've also got a lot of interesting low players. So obviously
yeah.
Smart,
I
Horford.
mean, people constantly talk about this team aging. I mean, this is one thing I've not quite understood where other people are coming from. In that, yes, we know Horford's aging, we know Hayward's aging, but if you look at the other spine of the team, you've got Smart who's 26, Mirotic is 25, Ingles who's 27. I mean, these guys are going to be there for the length of those deals until they're at least 30. I mean, they're not the wrong side of 30. So in my head, I think there's a chance to retool this team with what we've got. Um, in that the contract situations are quite nice as well for this team at the moment. So yeah, I mean, I think you probably got it spot on in that we're similar to Houston in that we have that franchise guy, but it's just a case of keeping our eyes open for if anything becomes available that can nudge us towards nearer towards the elite teams, but without necessarily giving away the house, really.
Yeah, I mean, can you pop up Ellenson's ratings real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can't quite see
So you want to
them.
read them out. So I
Yeah.
mean, scoring 62, passing 30, handles 50, rebounding offense 40, defense 76, defense ability 65, block 44, steal 67, discipline 71, IQ 52. So
Okay. I'm wondering. Even though the defense isn't that high, with his steals upside, from what I remember of them, is that a situation where Memphis is interested in taking a looking at that?
yeah, I mean, if I was talking Nutria, I mean, he probably fits that Memphis mold in that he's not gonna get absolutely destroyed on defense. He'll hold his own, but he does have some nice scoring upside. If I look, I mean, his numbers probably don't scream scoring ability, but I think if you look at some of the breakdowns of his um, scoring range in game, I mean, I think he still needs some preference work on the inside because I think that's where he scores really effectively. But yeah, I mean, possibly he might fit Memphis quite nicely. If I go to Memphis, I mean, just I don't necessarily see where. I mean, you'd have to move Green to probably the three, and then Ellenson in at the four. I mean, until you get Ellison's weight down, I guess. Does that mean Crowder goes to the shooting guard position? I mean, what are you thinking?
Well, I think it's one of those things where, um, you know, I, to me, I'm not Andre. To me, Ellenson is one of those guys who he can flip between the three and the four, depending on your matchups. So, I think that also fits into Memphis's mold. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the, and uh, and I think Andre would figure out a way how to use him. And I think regarding Ellenson's scoring numbers, I think that's largely a function of, oh, here's Hayward, here's Smart, here's
Yeah,
Horford.
yeah, yeah,
Whereas in Memphis, it's kind of like a Phoenix situation. I mean, and Ellenson, is only averaging not even 23 minutes a game in both seasons, and he's close to double digits. So, with a chance for a bigger scoring role, maybe some more minutes, I think that scoring goes up. And if I remember correctly, his steals are somewhere in the 70s. I don't have my computer and internet access in front of
mm-hmm.
me, but that could be potentially a good fit. The question is, what on Memphis would fit what you're looking for? Because I think you could definitely use some more defenders around that core of Smart, Horford, um, and Hayward. So, where do you think, where do you see an opportunity to make a deal that makes sense for both sides?
Yeah. That necessarily knowing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think yeah. I mean, it could be an interesting discussion because, as you mentioned, Ellenson has some nice scoring upside that the Grizzlies probably need, and they
And,
probably
and,
have
and yeah,
availability of defenders that could possibly help us in a run this year. But yeah, I mean, possibly could see something there. I mean, who knows? But
yeah. I mean, I would have to look more closely, but
hmm.
I definitely, have you had that conversation with Andre about Ellenson at all? Or
I can't say that I have recently. We did have a conversation in the off season about him. Uh, we both kind of agree that we have the same vision for how we want Ellison to play. So
yeah,
it kind of works. It's quite an interesting discussion. I mean, we didn't manage to get anything over the line there because I think the Grizzlies were looking at other things in the end. But yeah, well, who knows? But yeah, as we said, probably a buying team, Portland at the moment. But is there anyone else out here in terms of the league who you can see at the trade deadline? doing something, or do you think we've kind of covered all of the high profile teams?
I think we've kind of covered the high profile teams.
Hmm.
Um, and I personally still wouldn't be surprised to see one of the contenders uh, make a future move that doesn't
Hmm.
hurt them currently.
Yeah,
But the problem is that's so wide open; it's beyond the scope of this podcast to discuss it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think
um,
the white elephant in the room is whether there's a general manager hire for Golden State or for the Toronto Raptors, because that would just cause complete chaos at the trade deadline. But that's the only thing
yep.
we that could change things here. But I think we've given a good assessment of some of the teams around the playoff hunt who could be looking for pieces and what they have available. But
Yep, and we've got 3 trades we lined
we
out for
have
you
we've
guys.
got 3 trades. You need to watch the episode to get all of them. But I mean, make it happen, guys. That's all I can say. Tim, it's been great to have you on, as
Yep,
always. Good luck with the Lakers for the rest of the season. With I'm guessing we're hoping for less wins than more. But
yeah,
I'm sure you'll be looking forward to this season finishing and the lottery and draft day itself. But best of luck with that. And who
you
knows,
too.
Christian Woods might be moved at the deadline.
Yeah, still could happen. Or any of the other guys, hit me up, ask me. Let's at least talk because I'm going out of my mind here. Not making a deal this season. Okay, yep, and hopefully you'll be able to make you'll be able to push on to the 8th seed in the playoffs. I would say talk to Andre again, see if you can get something going for Ellingson.
Who knows?
I
It's
think
gonna
that.
it's gonna be close, but
Yep,
I'm sure we'll be back to talk about other things CSL in the
yep,
coming weeks.
yep. All right, I will be signing off then. See you later, Chris, and see you later, CSL.